Well, thanks for joining me on coffee break here. So, I guess to kind of jump into it, do you mind
Yeah.
maybe, I guess for those who may not necessarily be familiar with Lapinus, can you give us maybe an overview of who you are, what you do, markets you serve, that sort of thing?
Yeah, of course I can do that, Brian. So my name is Mark Segeren. I'm business manager for Lapinus, responsible for the global friction materials market. So we supply as Lapinus the brakes industry, the brake produced with raw materials, mainly mineral fibers, but also trading products like a calcium silicate, which we are selling, which is called Promex on D. Lapinus is part of the Rockwool International Group. Um, That is a group mainly active in insulation materials. That's our main industry.
Hmm.
And the group has around 30 factories worldwide. So we are global companies and about 12,000 employees in total. So when you look at Lapinus, we are really focusing on friction materials, on brakes. We have been active for close to 30 years in the brake industry. In fact, we started to be active when customers were looking for mineral fibers to replace asbestos at the end of the 80s.
Okay.
And then we started to supply mineral fibers and also to develop certain products which the market required at that time. Um, so when you look at Lapinus, we are based in the Netherlands. Our head office is in the Netherlands. We have here a pilot plant and technical center. So we can make our own test pads in our pilot plant and test them in our test center,
Hmm.
where we have a full-scale passenger car dyno,
Oh, wow.
noise dyno, I have to say. We also have a Kraus machine. Um, that's mainly used for R90 certification, which we can do here on this machine, and also wear testing. Um, so we have this equipment, which is quite unique for a raw material supplier, because we continue to develop new products according to the market requirements.
Mhm.
We have a technical team here of 5 people, just working on friction research and development, both developing new products but also giving technical support to our customers. So that is very important. We want to be close to our customers to know what the trends are, what they require, and to try to develop products according to their requirements.
Yeah, got it. No, interesting. So do you all have, from a Lapinus perspective, so do you all have offices around? I mean, obviously, I know you supply globally, but do you have offices around the world, or is it mainly located just in the Netherlands?
We are mainly located in the Netherlands, but we also have an office in China, where we have 3 people working for the friction material industry in sales and customer service, because Asia is of course one of the major markets for the automotive industry, including brakes.
Got it. Yeah, and this is probably a really dumb question, but the actual fit, like the mineral fiber or the main material that you supply, um, is it mined? Do you have to process it somehow internally first before shipping it to the customer? What's that process like?
Yeah, it's called in fact Rockwool, and our company name is called Rockwool. So what we basically do is we melt rocks, um, and then we have what we call spinning system. So there's a lava coming out of the oven um, at high temperature, about 1400 degrees centigrade. I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit.
No clue.
Okay.
Hot.
Hot, very hot.
Hot.
It's like lava. Then we have spinning wheels, and when the lava touches the surface of the spinning wheels, because of centrifugal forces, you get the fibers being formed.
Okay.
It's a bit like sugar candy for children.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah. So is it kind of
you
like a
know
cotton, like a?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like cotton.
So
Yeah.
is it what color is it? Is it white, black? What's it?
It is greenish, but we also have grayish. It depends on the chemical composition. Um,
Okay.
so there are different colors, but we
And
have
then
both like gray, green, and off gray colors.
gotcha. And then is it how's it packaged? Just out of curiosity, is it like in a bag? Is it like container load? How does it go? How does it ship to the customer?
Yeah, it's packed in bags on pallets and
Okay.
then goes into a container.
Okay.
Yeah, and we ship it around the world.
Okay. And I know, from a formulation perspective, a brake pad formulation consists of all sorts of different raw materials that make up the brake pad.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's different characteristics and I guess roles that material plays in the brake pad. So what value or role does the Lapinus material play in the brake pad?
The Lapinus material normally it has a very high melting point, so it's inorganic material. It gives reinforcement because it's a fiber with a high aspect ratio, and it also stabilizes the friction level because it resists very high temperatures. On the other hand, we have also coatings on the fibers. For instance, we have a specific coating which can reduce NVH noise in the friction material.
Got it. Okay. And then I know automotive is, a major customer base for you all, but do you also supply to other friction segments like heavy duty or like industrial braking, things like that?
Yeah. Our fibers are used in all the applications.
Okay.
So rail, industry, truck blocks, truck pads, in all the industry, in all the friction material applications.
Yeah. Okay.
People use our fibers. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And you, so how long have you been with Lapinus?
That's I started in Lapinus a long time ago, 1990.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then I left Lapinus. I went to work for another raw material company in 99, and I came back to Lapinus in 2005.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. So what's your background? Did you have is it a technical background, more sales background? How did you develop and grow throughout Lapinus?
Yeah, I have a technical background. I'm an aeronautical engineer. So don't ask me why I ended up in fibers, but
instead of making planes, engineering planes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So in your role, so looking forward, into we're finishing up the year, looking forward to 2020. So what things are you guys focusing on right now? Is there anything kind of that stands out that's different that you guys are looking at?
We continue to work on new developments. One of the new products we are working on is what we call fiber spheres. So that means spheres made of fibers, and we develop these products in order to try to reduce emissions and friction materials. As you know, there's a big discussion nowadays on emissions because the CO2 emissions from cars have been reduced quite a lot in the past years. So now people are focusing more on emissions of other parts of cars and or vehicles in general, mainly brakes, tires, and road wear. And we know in Europe the EU is working on legislation for fine particulates coming from vehicles. So we are following this trend by developing new products which can reduce, for instance, the wear of products, and fiber spheres is one of the products which we have seen can do that.
Yeah, no, and kind of following up on what you said earlier about kind of the engineering or the R&D side of friction development. Obviously, you guys have your own in-house team that's constantly working on friction material development, brake pad, I guess new formulation. So do you all work? So are you guys kind of completely independent? You guys kind of have your own in-house team you're developing, and it's more for a quality perspective on your own material, or do you work hand in hand kind of with your customers or like the brake pad manufacturers on kind of developing the formulations?
Yeah, of course. What we always do, we look at the trends in the market, and I just mentioned the emissions, and then looking at these trends, we try to develop new products, and we try to develop that as close as possible with our clients, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
We have quite some close partnerships, cooperation with our clients. That is what we continuously are doing.
Yeah. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And we've kind of mentioned trends. You wrote a really good article it's been a few weeks ago on trends in the automotive brake industry. Really good article. And I'll make sure I put the link to the article for folks to go and check it out after
Okay.
they watch this video. Don't leave
Yeah.
yet, but after you watch the video,
Yeah.
they could read the article. Really good article, and you touch on all sorts of interesting areas within the automotive brake industry. But a couple of things kind of got my piqued my interest too, was maybe the differences and challenges of developing friction materials in Europe versus maybe the U.S., because maybe there's some differences in requirement standards. Do you mind maybe speaking to that a little bit about maybe what the differences are between the two?
Yeah, when you look at friction materials in Europe, they are mainly what we call low met friction materials, disc brake pads for passenger cars. So there's steel fibers inside the formulations. And the reason is mainly because of performance requirements in Europe.
Okay.
Because we have the higher speeds specifically in Germany, where there's still unlimited speed possible, although less and less, because there's less and less motorways where you can drive as fast as you can. And also there's, for instance, a test which is called the AMS test, which is very harsh on friction materials. And so you really need a very robust friction material, like a low met. If you would use an NEO in that AMS test, it will not survive, because temperatures and the energy levels are so high, it will simply not survive.
Gotcha.
And when you look to, for instance, North America or Asia, the requirements, specifically on speed, they are much lower. People focus much more on comfort. So there you can use NEO friction materials, which are mainly based or are using mineral fibers, like our fibers, like Lapinus fibers. And these friction materials, they give normally less noise, also no wheel dust, because one of the issues with low steel, low met friction materials and is that they give quite high rotor wear, because they're quite abrasive, and this results in wheel dust, which with NEO friction materials you normally don't see. Also, the noise can be higher using low met friction materials, and also because of steel fibers, there may be more issues with corrosion.
Yeah, and so does that mean if you're in Europe, if you're a European supplier, but you supply globally, so does that mean that I guess obviously you're going to have to make multiple formulations, low met, NAO, all that sort, those sort of formulations to be able to supply globally, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we of course we just supply the raw materials for these formulations. But in our test facility, we test both kinds of formulations.
Yeah.
Also because we try to see the gaps between both friction materials and possibly develop a new mineral fiber which can close these gaps.
Yeah, yeah, and in your article too, you talk about, I guess, high performance NAO. So yeah. What exactly is that? Because I haven't necessarily heard that terminology before.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. What we see, of course, there are two different friction materials. So a car manufacturer, car producer, they, for instance, one model, and they need two different friction materials. One for Europe and one for let's say the rest of the world.
Yep.
For cost, looking at cost, they prefer to have one friction material. Because there's a lot of cost pressure coming from the market, from the automotive market. So they really try to, or they would like to have one global friction materials. So we know in Europe, the main OE producers, brake producers in Europe, they're all trying to develop high performance NEO, or we prefer nowadays to call it global NEO. And also, we are visiting all the major friction or brake producers worldwide. And when we ask the question in Asia to some of our customers, like, are you looking at developing high performance or global NEO friction materials? They said, no, not specifically, but we are looking at higher friction levels and to try to decrease the high temperature friction material wear. But in fact, that is a global NEO.
Yeah.
So they don't call it like HP or Global Enio, but they're also working on it. So
Got it. Well, good deal. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward.